You're listening to the Storm Report, your weekly insight into the Manchester Storm, brought to you on Storm TV by Maddie Finnegan, Max Artis, and Aidan Millen.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Storm Report, your exclusive podcast for all things Manchester Storm. As always, I am your host, Matthew Finnegan, and I thought I'd switch things up a little bit this week, and we're going to start out with one of our two guests that we have for you. Here with me at this very moment in time, live from the Manchester Storm Oval Office, is none other than Mark Noakes, your commercial manager. Mark, how are we doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Matty. How are you?
I'm fab. I'm ready to get into all things that you do at the club and then a little bit of fun side things as well that you've been picking up recently. I think the best place to start is unpacking what a commercial manager does. I'm not very business savvy myself, so that would go straight over my head. And enlighten me.
Well, I think obviously you had Chris and Ryan on last week, and I think titles are titles. At the end of the day, we've got a small group of people behind the scenes that do an awful lot of things, as well as volunteers as well. But really, my main remit is to try and make the club more money from a commercial aspect. So whether that's through selling the hospitality boxes, through sponsorship, through partnerships, through working with external organisations to help bring more fans in. It's got a multitude of angles, to be honest with you, but it is all about getting the brand out an awful lot more, as Ryan talked about last week as well. And at the end of the day, bringing more money into the club so that we can reinvest that into the team on the ice.
You must do an awful lot of work away from a game day, but for those that are keen-eyed, they're always able to spot you in and around the rink when their games are on. And most of the time when I end up seeing you, because I'm obviously there as well, I end up seeing you on the ice for Chuck-a-Puck. Luckily, you go on after they've already thrown things, so you're not exactly getting peppered with them. But what are the roles that you undertake when a game is actually being played?
Just with regards to Chuck-a-Puck, I think there's a fair few people who'd like me in the middle to throw things at me, to be honest. But I think really for game night, it's just trying to make the experience for fans run as smoothly as possible. So whether that's helping and welcoming our guests that are in the hospitality boxes, making sure that everything is ready for them. The fridges are stocked. Rick does an awful lot of hard work in making sure that all the fridges are stocked up and everything for when people arrive. Just ensuring they have a good evening, getting feedback from them as well. Starts, I'm normally there an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before doors open. Along with Rick and a lot of the other volunteers as well. So an awful lot does go on behind the scenes to make sure that your game night as a fan, your game night experience is as good as possible. At the end of the day, I'll just help out wherever's needed. So pre-game, helping just get the mascots ready. Anyone that's doing the puck drop, helping all that sort of stuff. The stewards help out an awful lot with those kind of things as well. I enjoy walking around and just talking to fans because it's quite interesting. They are the barometer for where we are at. And I pick up a lot of, we could try this, we could try that from fans. Yeah, we don't like this. We like this. Can we do some more of that? We went to another game the other week at one of our opposition teams and they did this. Could we do that? It's just trying to get some ideas. And the best way to get ideas from people is literally walking around and talking to them, checking in, making sure they're having a good night. We have seen a huge increase in first-time visitors to the Storm over the last couple of seasons. A huge increase. And you can always tell the first-time visitors are the ones staring at the phones when they walk in going, where the hell do we go? So they're very easy to spot. And I kind of make a point of going to see them and do you know where your seats are? Yeah, great. Do you need anything? Your toilets are here, blah, blah, blah. Just makes them feel a bit more welcome. And then if they're having a good time during the evening, they're going to come back time and time again as well. The Chuck-a-Puck is literally just to help. As you've seen, there's the best part of 150 to 250 pucks thrown on the ice. We have limited time before the Zamboni comes on, so it's all hands to the pump with the stewards and the skating volunteers helping to collect them. But yeah, I've been hit on the head a few times with them, so maybe that lined me up for something else to come later. Who knows?
maybe it'd be interesting to see in the mascots at uniform anyway. See if you get out there and get peppered with them. A couple of strays maybe. You speak a little bit there about having new fans, and we've had loads of them coming through the door. Is it just trying to give them the best possible experience to get them bringing back, or what can you do personally to try and make sure that these new people that we're getting through the door, it isn't just a one-time thing, they keep coming back?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we're a family sport, so we want to make sure that people enjoy themselves. So if you go to something for the first time, you're probably a little bit wary. Where am I sat? What happens? Where do I get a drink, or anything like that? And anything for me that makes the evening, and it doesn't matter whether they're a new fan or an existing fan, season ticket holder, it does not matter, because at the end of the day, we want to try and make our match night experience as good as possible and as much fun as possible for everyone that's in the rink at the time. We can only do so much, and then it's down to the guys on the ice. Obviously, win, lose, OT, whatever it is, we always put on a show, and that's what it's all about. Look, we're not NHL. We're not going to have flashing lights and all this kind of stuff. But I hope fans are seeing that over time, over the last couple of years, for example, we've really started to improve our match night offerings to people, and that's what it's all about. If we have genuinely a really good, positive and supportive fan base, and I don't mean that from a team point of view. The number of comments that you see on the forum, for example, of people saying, "Oh, I'm coming to my first game. What's this? What's that?" There's so many positive comments. Sit wherever. You'll have a great time. You'll be welcome, and that's what it's all about. That is what will keep bringing people back time and time again. We're in what I would class as the best city in the world, because I'm a born and bred Mancunian, so I'm very biased. But we're in a great city which is hugely sports orientated. City, United, Stockport, Altrincham, all on our doorstep. Cricket, rugby league, rugby union. Davis Cup tennis is held in Manchester, and many, 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 many other sports. So we need to try and make anybody's visit to the arena as positive and enjoyable as possible, so that they want to come back.
There's definitely a massive market that we can try and tap into in Manchester. I think that there's loads of people that we can try and get on board, and I think that the work that you do is crucial to that. So well done yourself. But as you mentioned, it is very much a results dependent business, that, and people are going to want to go and they're going to want to see Manchester Storm winning for Manchester, and obviously you're never going to win every single game. And this gets me on to the most recent fixture for this podcast. We hosted Belfast for Remembrance Night at home, and that game did not go our way, it's safe to say. And I want to know, how much from your perspective, I'll go last question on your roles with the Storm. How big of an impact can a loss be? How much more difficult does that make your job, for example?
It's a little bit of a difficult one to answer. There can be a loss and there can be a loss. So we had a couple of games last year where, for whatever reason, the guys just didn't show up that night. And that happens. People forget that, yes, these guys are professional sportsmen, but they're human beings as well. And we all have good days and bad days at work. It's just most of us go to work and we don't have 2,500 people watching us do what we do all the time. So we all have good and bad days. There can be losses. And in fact, take Kiefer's interview after the Giants game. He said that wasn't a 7-2 game. I think the words that he used in the first period about his team were they were ruthless. And I think that's the difference. There's no lack of effort from the guys. I think everyone can see that. And sometimes, when you've got a hot goalie like Whistle was, I mean, that save in the third period is, that's a highlight reel save. There's no doubt about that. And sometimes it's little things like that that can swing games. We've got a competitive group of guys. We've got a group of guys who are doing all that they can to win games. Of course, if we're winning every week, which is a sport when people don't do that, but if you win every week, is it going to make it easier to sell tickets? Of course. Is it going to make it easier to sell to sponsors and partners and hospitality boxes? Of course. Well, that's never going to happen in hockey. I think this season will be a very, very tight season, and I think you'll probably see a points total to win the league that will be lower than it has been for quite some time, because I think it's so competitive this year.
And just from my perspective, I think if it is going to be so tight and competitive, and when you turn up to the rink not knowing what the score is going to be, and both teams have an equal chance of winning. To me, as a general hockey fan, that's really exciting. And keeps me coming back. But obviously, you are going to want the Storm here at the Storm Report. You are going to want Manchester to come away with the 2 points more often than not. But it's not always that easy, and especially from a competitive on ice standpoint. Now, Mark, if I'm right, you've recently undergone a little bit of a hockey change from doing mainly stuff off ice to on ice. You've made the decision, and I want you to tell me why, to try and pick up what I would describe as one of the most difficult positions in sport. Tell me about what you've chosen to do.
I thought this might come out. So back in May, I decided I wanted to try and be a goalie. So this goes back about 18 months when obviously people know myself, but they'll probably know Alice, my daughter, around the rink and stuff as well. Neither of us could skate. So we both started skating. She then worked, as young kids tend to do, they pick it up a lot quicker and also have less fear of falling over. And she ended up playing for the girls' academy team, under 16s academy team last year. So it got to the end of their season, and I tried a couple of times to do the hockey basics that are held at the rink on a Sunday night, which is great fun, but very quickly realised I was completely incapable of being being a skater. So I got to the end of the season and I thought, I'll just try and be a goalie because it's, why not? I kind of threw myself into things like that. And I'm not going to lie, I cannot tell people how much I underestimated how hard that is. Not only from being a goalie, but just wearing all the equipment, the weight of the equipment for starters, and then trying to have any form of mobility or agility is incredibly difficult. But I've been training with a rec team, the Manchester Swarm, who are a great bunch of guys, and they are extremely supportive and encouraging. And that led to me playing part of the game on Sunday for the first time. So, yeah, it's a great experience. It's great fun. Hard work, incredibly hard work, but it also gives you a huge insight into how difficult and how good the pro netminders are at this level. It's outrageous.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the insight that it gave you, but first we will talk about the first experience, the first proper game that you played, because I've seen the pictures come out now, and you look completely different with all the goalie gear on and the mask. You look almost scary, to be honest with you.
I'm not sure how to take that, Matty, but okay.
Yeah, we're two people that wear glasses, so I wondered if that made things difficult for you, first of all.
No, it's I just put my contact lenses in for that. So there is another goalie, another Mark actually, who plays, and he wears his glasses under his helmet. I don't know how he does that, to be honest with you, but yeah, just put my contacts in.
I'd hope they're not very expensive glasses, and I envy you because I can't put in contacts. I always struggle with them. But yeah, anyway, it's a good job you're able to see. But when you're out there and you've got all this equipment on, how difficult is it actually being a goaltender? Because I think sometimes when you turn up to the rink week in, week out, and you have someone like our Evan, our number 35, it can lull you into like a sense of security that it's just your everyday thing. It's just a part of the team. When realistically, it's one of the most important jobs there is, and it's really difficult to get right.
Yeah, I think first of all, I don't think Wenny or Alex have got anything to worry about. I think their spot on the roster is perfectly safe. It is an incredibly difficult thing to do, but it is great fun. But even just doing it for the last 4 months or so, 4 or 5 months or so, it does make you realise how difficult a job it is. Because let's say it's like any sport, any goalie in any sport, you name it. If they make a mistake, invariably it's going to end up in conceding a goal. But it's also a team sport. It's a team game. So if the forwards and the D can help the goalie by restricting shots or clear shots on target and grade A opportunities, as they call them, then that's obviously going to help the goalie. I think, our guys last year, Alex, when called upon around sort of pre-Christmas, was amazing for 8, 9, 10 games, something like that. And when he was unreal for the season. And I think that set such high expectations. And nothing's changed this season. They're both still the same netminders. When he's probably not hit the standards that he set himself, because they are such high standards. But I think people underestimate. You can't compare what I did on Sunday to the guys in any way, shape, or form. But it's all relative at the end of the day. And having a puck fired at you, as Wenny and Alex do at 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, I think people in the stands, and I certainly did before trying it myself, take it for granted. But on the flip side of that, you've got to bear in mind these guys have been probably been a goalie from, I don't know, certainly, I know Alex hasn't been that long actually. He's probably 12, 13, 14 when he started for ice hockey. But, these guys have been doing it for a long time. And I would probably just say what I said before, every single player is out there on the ice doing the very best they can at every single shift. Doesn't always pan out the way we want it to, but that's not through lack of effort or commitment or endeavour. Being a goalie is pretty scary. I've had 3 ping off my helmet and I had 1 directly into my throat the other day. So yeah, it can be a painful experience.
You're putting yourself right in the firing line when you choose to be a netminder in hockey. It's got to be commendable. It's got to be respected. I think if there's anyone in the Storm team that is allowed to have an off day, as I would probably call Belfast, I would say it's our number 35. I think Wenninger deserves all the credit that he's given himself over the past year or so. And I think he has started this season below those standards, but from a commentary standpoint, where I sit week in, week out, he always makes incredible saves that you just wouldn't expect him to make. But then I think just with the defense in front of him, learning new systems, more pucks are going to get through. And when more pucks get through and you're faced with more are going to go in. That's just the nature of the game. So I think it'll be very interesting to see when he comes back this weekend. And I'll let you talk about that in a little second. But we have Dundee, and then we have Guildford, and it'll be interesting to see what his bounce back's like, because knowing him personally, I know that he'll be someone that will want to rectify that as best he can. But let's talk about that now, because Dundee is our next game. It's our next home game. So you'll be, I'm sure, already working away at trying to make that the best experience for fans. And if you're a fan listening at home thinking, why should I turn up this week on a Friday? Why should I go and watch the Storm play? What would your answer to that question be? Why should fans go?
Well, I think we all know it's a great night out anyway, full stop. But the guys right now, as I said a few times in this conversation with you, Matty, is the guys are working really, really hard, and they need our support. We all know the rink is what it is, and we need to utilise that to our advantage. And one of the advantages that we have is that we can make an awful lot of noise in this place. So it may not be the biggest, but it is one of the noisiest places in the league when we get going. And I think, like any team, it needs its supporters in the good times, the okay times, and the challenging times. And we're probably in between that okay and challenging right now, if we're brutally honest. I think, as I've said earlier, this is going to be one of the tightest leagues we've seen for quite a while. It's going to be hugely competitive. And I would say get yourselves down on Friday, make some noise for the guys, because they do appreciate it. It does help them. And, at the end of the day, whether you're a fan, whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a player, etc., we're all here for the same reason. And this is to make the club the best it can be, both on and off the ice. So get down, have a good night, support the guys, and let's get those 2 points that we need.
Very well said. Very well said. Well, we do have a preview for the Dundee Stars game coming up later on in this podcast, and that will be with your regulars now, Dean and Max. And you have that to look forward to. I will reveal to you who the next guest will be for this podcast in just a moment. But for now, thank you so much for joining me, Mark. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Cheers, Matty. Nice to talk to you. Take care.
Hey everyone, I really hope you're enjoying this podcast. We at Storm TV want to make a show that you guys as fans can feel proud of. And to do that, we need to hear your voices. With the pilot episode alone, we received some great feedback across our socials, with special thanks to those like Greg on YouTube for the advice. You guys hear us, but we hear you too, and your opinion matters, so please let us know what you think of the show by giving us a review, a like, or a comment. Thank you. Not so fast, everyone. Just before I start asking other people questions and the rest of this podcast, I have to ask you guys a very important question. Have you ever played shuffleboarding? Because if you haven't, you can on the 3rd of December, because the Storm have teamed up with Electric Shuffle to bring you a night of competitive shuffleboarding. On the 3rd of December from 7 till 9 p.m. for £15 or £10 if you're a Storm support or season ticket holder, you can enter as a team of 4 and choose a Storm player to add to your squad and battle against others, with the top 2 teams being crowned champions at the end of the night. And that could be you. If you're a team of less than 4, you'll be added with other teams to make up for the numbers, but you need to hurry as there are only 80 places available. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, then why not visit the Storm Support app and website for further information and booking. As I said before, only 80 places available, so you've got to be quick. Best of luck to everyone out there, and may the best shuffleboarding teams win. Now on to the rest of the podcast. Right, fellas, I am joined, as always, by Dean Byrne, Max Artis, and Aidan Millen. Aidan Millen, though, salut. Whereabouts are you at the minute?
Salut, bonsoir. I'm currently in northern France at the in-laws. It's actually my father-in-law's birthday. They're downstairs having a little party. But given I can't understand 90% of what's said, they've kindly let me take some time away to come talk to you chaps.
I was going to say, you have a chance to go and enjoy some French time, but you're choosing to spend it here on the Storm Report. I appreciate it. I could have started doing this all in French just to mess with you, but unfortunately I don't have those abilities. We have some exciting things to be getting on with in this podcast. You will have already heard from Mark by now, but we're going to be having a little conversation with a certain captain of our team later on. You can look forward to that. But beforehand, we need to break down the Belfast game. It was the only game that we played on the weekend, and it didn't exactly go our way. And whilst the scoreline could be seen as a little bit brutal, Dean, I don't think the game was as one-sided as the scoreline suggests.
Well, no, I think you're right. I think like both Flags and Keithley said, the scoreline wasn't reflective of the actual game. You know, there was a lot of good performances there, even though this is the Storm's 7th loss in 11 games. That game in particular, you know, I did think we have started off strong. Obviously, during the second period, we did lose it a little there, but I think in the third period we did show signs of getting back in it. We were just, I think, unfortunate that all of our shots were either saved or just didn't go into the back of the net. So I don't think the scoreline is a true reflection of any team's performance. To be honest, I think it's just a case of we had a bad night at the office, and I think we can bounce back from it hopefully soon.
I have to say I agree. I think we often end up with the 7 losses in 11 games. We often end up unfairly on the wrong side of the scoreline. I do think Belfast deserved this win. They were the better team on the night, no doubt about it. But I think there were certain moments where we played like a team that could have won that game. And I think where it was really won and lost was in that second period. But overall, we had the third period. I think we only conceded the 1, and we were a pretty strong unit that came together in spite of the 2 periods that we played before. But the game just kind of fell apart in that second, Max.
Yeah, it did. 4 goals and only 1 in answer back from the Storm. Conceding early on in any period is tough. 1 minute 44 into that second period after getting a goal back 2-1 in the first. So going back to another 2-goal deficit, getting one back again, 3-2. You thought there was something more in the game for the Storm at that point, and then 3 back-to-back goals for the Giants just kind of sapped the life and energy out of the team and out of the Storm shelter as well, which I think led to the ease in the third period from the Giants. They shut it down. They clogged up the neutral zone, made life incredibly difficult for the Storm to get anything in transition. We know how good this Storm team is with speed and possession through the neutral zone, and Giants just took that completely away from them and shut down that game plan, which was I think we need to start looking for a plan B when plan A isn't going our way. We need more tactical. I think more tactics and more changes and more options for the players There seems to be a lot of one and dones. We've heard that saying from Matt Ginn last year of kind of getting into the zone, taking a shot, getting rimmed out, and straight back on defense. And there just needs to be a second plan, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always difficult when the goals kind of pile on you and it can get all a bit too much to come back from. And I agree with the idea that Belfast came out and the game to probably both sets of benches was already won. And they were just kind of playing the 20 minutes because they had to, not because there was any sort of competition in it. And at that point, it's a shame for the fans that have turned up. But I think that paints a really negative picture. And like I said, the third period had some really good moments in it. I think we were showing signs of life. We kind of got around a little bit of the antics that we had before. I remember in commentary, I was picking up on a couple of errant passes from our own defensive zone that were just being picked off. And it was really frustrating to view as a fan. And I think we were able to tidy that up a lot more in the third period. There were also two pretty good things that happened in that game. We saw the first appearance of our backup netminder, Alex Oldale. And we also had another returnee to the lineup who got on the score sheet, Aiden.
Did indeed. It's my one to watch in the forecast as well, so I was quite pleased that came off. Yeah, he was good to see him back in the lineup. Obviously, we know he'd been struggling recently, but good to see him back and getting on the score sheet. Broke up the Triple H line. Bit of a shame, but for the goals, it's hard to argue. I mean, looking at the game as a whole, I mean, that Belfast team are very good. I think I said it on our preview last week that they've got a lot of depth in scoring. When I saw their 4 forward lines going into the game on Saturday, I thought, "Ooh, this could be a struggle." I mean, they've got Kieran Long, who, when he played in Manchester, he was 2 really good years, got on the score sheet, like British Player of the Year, etc. And he's playing on Belfast 4th line. That's the depth they've got. I think Cooper was on the third line. They've got Picnic. They've got Conway, who got man of the match. They've got so much quality in that forward line. And a couple of the goals that they scored is where it's like they play a pass, and I'm like, oh, that was a good pass, and then they play, oh, that was a good pass, and then it's in the back of the net, and you're just like, yeah, fair play, guys. It's a really just tough game for us. Belfast just executed what they did very well, as you would expect with their quality. I think sort of touched on what you were saying, Max. I think what we're trying to do this year is we are trying to be a quick attacking team. And that looks great when you have these high scoring games where you are getting, you get it over on the teams you're playing against. But the rub against it is when it goes wrong, it tends to go very, very wrong. In that you're trying to play those stretch passes, you're trying to do those 2-on-1s where you D-men are pinching up and then you're giving up odd men rushes on the way back. And when that goes wrong, you do tend to concede more goals than if you're trying to play a tight game. And as we've seen maybe over the last few years when Finner was in charge, he did try to keep it tight against the bigger teams. And doesn't necessarily mean that they're more exciting games, but they often ended up closer in terms of scoreline. And as we've seen playing Belfast twice, Cardiff once at our place, you do run into these top teams and your game plan doesn't go quite so well, you can look at bad end of a scoreline, and I think that's just what we're seeing right now. I'm not saying I disagree with the tactics though, because when it does work and you get these great games with lots of goals, I'd rather see that than a 2-1.
It's an entertaining tactic, that's for sure. And I think it always makes things more fun for the neutral. I know we have a lot of new fans coming to the Storm Shelter every weekend, and they'll watch an entertaining game and brand of hockey, which is always good. It will keep them coming back. But wins are what we want to see. And I wonder, Dean, if we spoke about this, I think, last episode, which if you haven't listened to yet, check that out. But we spoke last episode about Mike Flanagan getting used to the league and getting used to certain things that are part of the league. And I think maybe one of them is learning to play in our own building. I don't know if you agree, Dean, but I think our building is notorious for being difficult to play in, but sometimes that can be for us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I do 100% agree. Because obviously, when you compare it to the likes of, Nottingham, Sheffield, Cardiff, it's not a traditional ice rink you'd associate with a professional ice hockey team, but that can always, like you say, it can be in our advantage, but it can also be a little bit of a disadvantage, as we're obviously clearly seeing now, in that teams are coming in here, and although we are starting games strong, like I've said before, it's getting to a point where it's just we're not performing even at home. So I think Flanagan, I'd probably say his tactics may be to start maybe reshuffling the lines a bit more, so to make it as unpredictable as possible for teams when they're coming in. So to try and maybe get in the heads of the team before we even step on the ice, I'd say would be a good tactic to try and keep everyone on the toes a bit more, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, that can pay off for us and get us a few more wins in the bag.
Yeah, every coach in the league, when they come to do their post game interview, away coach that is, they jump on and say that the Storm shelter is the hardest place to come to play a game. Just at the moment, Storm aren't really making it the hardest place to take 2 points out of for traveling teams. Kind of need to lock things down. Most of the guys have played in similar size rinks, from what I hear. We'll hear more from Cam Critchlow on that, I would have thought, coming up in this episode, in the comparisons to those rinks that they've played in, maybe in the East Coast League and other leagues growing up over in the States. But yeah, Storm need to lock down the Storm shelter and start making it a fortress rather than somewhere that's easy to play in.
I can definitely echo those points. I think play to your strengths. So it can be a difficult building to play in, but we train there every single week, so we should be used to being able to utilize it. You've got your awkward bounces off the stanchions, and you've got the Zamboni doors, and all those things that you can try and just create chaos with, and then take advantage of it. I think it's a unique rink, but like you say, the rink will be different sizes, and people will be used to playing in different types. And if we've got the players that are used to it, then we can try and pick up on second nature and try and see if we can fashion a sort of relationship with the rink, I'll try and call it. Excuse me for being poetic. That being said, though, you dropped the name of a certain someone that's going to be joining us momentarily. It is none other than our captain, Cam Critchlow, who's also been the assistant coach, if you've been keen-eyed at the Storm Shelter recently. Been stood on the bench next to Flags and next to Mikey Moe. He's been trying his hand at that, and let's hear from him now about what that's been like for him. Do you have a business that you want to promote to thousands of people per week? Well, the Storm Report could be the podcast for you. Get in touch and find out how you can sponsor segments, interviews, or even the whole show. Get involved with Manchester's elite ice hockey team by contacting Mark at manchesterstorm.com. That's MARK at manchesterstorm.com. Get involved. Captain Cam Critchlow, your first appearance on the Storm Report podcast. It's good to have you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, boys. And yeah, definitely excited to make my debut on the Storm podcast.
We're excited to have you. I wanted to ask you first about how your recovery's going. We saw you take an injury a couple months ago now, and I'm sure the fans will want to know how you're doing.
Yeah, it's been a long recovery process, to be honest with you. It's been pretty frustrating. I think anytime a hockey player gets injured, they'll tell you it's definitely not the easiest thing to go through, especially for an extended period of time. So it's just been kind of rehabbing with Tom, our physio. Cherry as well has helped out a lot. So shout out to them for being patient with me and really helping me along the way and giving me the confidence throughout this injury to make a comeback. Been on the ice for the first time the past 2 days. It's gone about as well as it could have so far. So we'll just keep pushing, try and get me back as soon as possible. Obviously, if anyone knows me personally, I'm definitely dying to get back in there and make an impact on the ice rather than just in the dressing room and off the ice. So yeah, it's coming along, and we'll just keep pushing, keep working, and hopefully be back in a jersey uniform and for a game here soon.
I know I speak for all fans when I say that we're excited at the idea of having you back sometime soon. It'd be really exciting. Now that we've we know you're okay, we know that you're doing all right. That's always good. I want to kind of start from the beginning of the season, because we're used to saying Captain Cam Critchlow. It's like a triple C thing when we're introducing you as a player. But there was a moment this season where we had a new head coach coming in, new perspective, new eyes, and he had to choose who his captain was, presumably. And he decided to go with you, and you are still our captain. And I wanted to know, maybe from your perspective,
What's that like being recognized by a new pair of eyes, and what's it like being the Storm captain?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a tremendous honor. I take a lot of pride in not only being the captain, but just a player in the Manchester Storm organization. It means a lot to me. You know, I've been here for 6 years, and we're just trying to keep building and building and getting better and better. So, yeah, I mean, it was obviously a tremendous honor. There's plenty of guys in that dressing room that could definitely don a letter, if not the C. So, you know, there's tons of leadership within our team. Going over it with flags, you know, it was a good conversation we had. I missed the first week of camp. I was away with GB, so kind of a little behind the eight ball there. But him and I sat down, had a beer, and chatted about it. And he felt like I was the right guy for the job, and you know, obviously accepted that with a great honor and responsibility. So yeah, I think anytime you're put in that position, there's a lot of onus on you to, you know, be your best self every day and set a good example both on and off the ice, and you know, bring work ethic and good leadership qualities that you know, tend to rub off on other players. So yeah, I mean, coach and I had a good talk about it. I really enjoy working with Flags. You know, he's an honest coach. He tells you how it is. I think that's the best quality a coach can have. So you know, no rough around the edges or sugarcoating anything. It is what it is, and either it's right or wrong, and either, you know, correct those mistakes and get going. And you know, I respect that a lot out of a coach. So it's been a great, you know, I've only played, I think, 6 games in competition under Flags, and you know, it was a good start to the season. And you know, we gotta get back to where we were and get our form going here forward.
So you kind of spoke about it there, kind of almost answered my question I'm going to ask, but I kind of want a little bit more of an in-depth answer. You spoke a lot about the leadership that's in the room, and coming from a player side, I know that you don't have to have a letter on your jersey to kind of command that presence. Just speak of a couple of names and of other guys that have that quality in the room.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a short list, I'll tell you that. Obviously, you know, Steven Johnson and Chase Harrison are my assistant captains, and both incredible leaders, both incredible workers, and you know, they're like, we just spoke about honesty, but there's a different honesty within the players themselves, and keeping each other accountable, and you know, making sure that each guy is bringing their best foot forward each and every day. So there's two that stand out. Obviously, the experience of Joe Morrow jumps right off the page. The list really goes on and on. You look throughout that room, I mean, you have experience from guys playing pro for a number of years. You have experienced British players that are coming through. We have, you know, guys from all over the map, really. And I think there's a lot of leadership within our defensive core. I think you know, they can really take onus of a game and work together. I think they do a good job of doing that, keep each other accountable, but they support each other a ton, which is great. You know, you look at Owen Griffiths, who's come over from Guildford, and you know, he's been a good piece for us as well as off the ice in the room. He's been a welcome addition as far as leadership goes. Lauren Ulett, you know, brings a physical style. 7th-year pro, I believe now. So the list goes on and on. There's a number of guys you can speak about: Jake Derflinger, Grant Hebert, the way they've played throughout the season and come over and really settled in nicely. And there's just not a much, you know, even Evan Winiger in that, you know, your goaltender's a leader, and that's a huge advantage. You know, goalies are kind of known to keep themselves, or kind of do their own thing in their own little world, but that's really not the case. He's vocal. He wants guys to be better. If they make mistakes, they're gonna hear about it. So yeah, it's been great. And I think, you know, my absence the last few months, it's really been put to the test, and we needed guys to step up and do it. You know, it doesn't have to be the same guy every time, but it's the leadership by committee, and that's what we've had. So we just need to get back to that. And you know, it's a kudos to the guys in that room for all the qualities they bring. And you know, it's a pleasure to come to work with them every day.
That's been something that me and Max on commentary have been documenting throughout the season so far, is different people stepping up and almost filling those leadership shoes, I should say. And it's so refreshing to have so many players that are leaders in that dressing room. And I think it does show in the performances, and it's a real blessing to have as a supporter of the team. Going back to yourself, though, you've kind of been able to show leadership more so off the ice to start this season with your transition to playing like an assistant coaching role. And I wanted to ask what that's been like for you, like the transition to leading on the ice to off the ice. How have you found that?
Yeah, it's different. Obviously, like, it's hard as a hockey player. Like, you're a hockey player, you don't want to coach, you want to play. You want to be out there mixing up with the boys. And you know, when things get a little fiery on the ice, you almost just kind of want to chuck a water bottle onto the ice and just kind of go after someone. But obviously, you're not able to. But yeah, it's been great as far as me personally, when guys get hurt, you kind of you tend to feel like you're on the outside looking in a little bit. So it's been great for me just to be another set of eyes on the bench, as well as just kind of be a support valve for the guys, just coming off, try and, just instill positivity and just kind of keep them going. And, head coaches, a lot of them aren't, they're not going to come off and tell you how well you played each and every shift, right? So every time someone comes off and makes a good play, small things that kind of go under the radar, maybe aren't, noticed as much as, scoring a highlight reel goal or whatever, but making a block, having a good stick, winning a big face off, whatever it may be, just kind of make sure they know that you see that and it's appreciated. So yeah, I mean it's been different. I helped out Ginner a little last year. I missed 3 games at the beginning of the season, helped him out. So you learn a lot. You're behind the bench, things happen fast, and you can see how sharp the coaches do have to be with all the details associated with the game. So it's been fun. It's been eye opening, but definitely rather have my equipment on than standing behind the bench for sure.
Do you think that your time on the bench, you say you learn a lot with the different experiences that you've had so far. Do you think that experience will aid you as a player when you go back to the team?
I believe so, and like very very big. I think when you're not playing, and like me, I haven't skated. I didn't skate for 8 weeks, so there's a lot going on within the team, and if you're watching from the stands and not on the bench, you notice certain things. You know what systems we're playing, but you don't really hear what's being preached or whatever in between periods on the bench. So Flags has adapted to different teams, different styles, made adjustments in game. So it's nice to be in the mix and just kind of refresh on systems and what's going on and what we might switch to, some of the tendencies or whatever it may be. So I think it just keeps you a little bit sharper mentally and more prepared for what's to come. Hopefully in the next few weeks for me.
It's good that you're staying in the loop with things, because by the time you do come back in, you should just slot right into the setup and everything should be good.
Let's certainly hope so.
Yeah, so do we. So do we. My final question on that point would be, do you have is that kind of from your experience so far on the bench, maybe when your playing career is finished in a couple of years down the line, would that be something you could see yourself transitioning into? Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it. I'm feel like I'm a lifer in the game here. So yeah, play as long as you can, and then you want to stick within the game most likely. So who knows what could be on the horizon for that. Right now, not really trying to think big picture, just one day at a time, getting healthy, getting back. But yeah, I mean, it's been a great experience. I think any player that has that opportunity, it's not an everyday occurrence that happens, and some guys that aren't playing don't get to go on the bench and help out like that. So yeah, it's been something that I've cherished and didn't take for granted, and just trying to be like a sponge, soak up everything you can, learn what works, what may not work, what tendencies you like, maybe some that you would do differently. But it's pretty interesting to see how a coach operates and the responsibilities they take, not just week in, week out, but day in, day out, and each and every single period of each game.
Well, Cam, I wanted to ask you a bit of a hypothetical scenario. Obviously, you talk about, obviously, you don't know what's on the horizon and unlikely scenarios. I was wanted to ask, if you were given the choice, would you rather set up and coach a team in your hometown of Summerside, or would you want to play one game for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Would play one game for the Leafs. That's an easy answer for me. Yeah, I think that would be the top of the list pretty much, I think.
Yeah.
Just to tack on,
refuse.
Yes.
just to tack onto that, any particular opponent, like team that you would want to have the Leafs face against?
That I want to have the Leafs face against.
Yeah,
if you got to go Montreal Canadiens, right? I think it's
yeah.
oldest rivalry in hockey. Either them or Boston, just based on the heartbreak that they have caused the Leafs for the last decade, it seems like. So yeah, I'll go Bruins on that one.
If it's not already come out on this podcast, I'm also a Leafs fan. So maybe that's what it takes to get over the hump. We need to put Cam in to see what he can run riot in that playoff fixture. It would be good to see. They're kind of staying on the level of fun. If you're listening in this, you would have heard earlier on in the podcast that there is a fun opportunity coming up to do electric shuffleboarding with the Storm players. You will have already heard the ad read, I'm sure, but I want to do a little short and sweet one with you, Cam, as the players have already sussed it out, tried their hand, and I wanted to know from your captain's opinion, who the best player is for fans to try and choose to have on their team?
Oh, for personality wise and skill level, I will suggest my roommate Lauren Ulett because he's got a good touch. He's a good guy to hang out with, and if you lose to another team, he can just beat the out of whoever's across from you. So some good options. You'll feel safe and probably more confident in in the game if having him by your side. So yeah, I'll go with Yuli.
It's not a bad answer. I'd like to see who stands out on that day when it happens. Definitely do get involved in that. My next question actually relates to the last podcast that we did, the one that came out last week. We interviewed Chris Bailey and Ryan Finity. And we spoke about Chris Bailey's role. It's a very unique role. He kind of just gets to be like a player support. He gets to be there for you, kind of fighting your corner. And I thought that now that we've got a player on to talk about it, it'll be really interesting to hear from your perspective how valuable someone like Chris Bailey is to your team.
I think I told him 2 days ago. I said, "You're the jack of all trades and master of none." Yeah, Bales is just based like he's around every day helping the guys, really sorting any bits that need sorted, housing, social, girlfriend, whatever it may be. Like if you need anything, he'll get it done for you. I'm sure anyone who knows Chris knows that he's a social butterfly. He likes to he likes to be in the mix and chat with everybody and know what's going on with every little thing. So yeah, Chris has been great, and you guys lean on him quite heavily. Honestly, like they get anything that could be anything at the rink, away from the rink. He helps out with a lot of stuff, and he's on board and he's at the rink, and you see him every day. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you don't see that he has a major impact on, obviously. So I think his official title is player liaison, but yeah, he's just a guy you like to have in your corner. And over the past 6 years while I've been here, there's been a lot of trust built with Chris, and he's a good friend of mine, so we're definitely lucky to have him.
There is a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on. And if you do want to find out a little bit more about that, we did speak about that in the last episode that went up last week. So definitely check that out. And I wanted to ask on that topic, his role is something that's very unique to the team, but also unique to the league. And he said that not many teams have a person in that position. Would you say that it's almost like a superpower for the team, having someone that can really support you in those moments, going up against a team that doesn't have someone in that position?
As much as I love Bales, I'm not going to describe having him on the team as a superpower. But yeah, no, he's definitely he's definitely like I said, he's jack of all trades. Like if it's it could be anything. Where to go eat? I need to get this for my apartment. Where should I get it? As far as like you come over, like a lot of guys from Canada come over, and like even paying like a council tax bill, like it's different than home. So you need to know how to set that up, get that done, and like he really just helps out with anything really. So it's an advantage to us for sure. And I hope the boys appreciate what all the stuff that he does for us, and I know they do. But it's really endless. Like the list goes on and on and on. So it's definitely unique. It's special, but I think that's kind of the culture here in Manchester. Is you come here, we want to help you, we want to make the transition as easy as possible, and he's a big part of that for sure.
Is it safe to say that he kind of makes you, as players, be able to just think about and focus on hockey, and he can take care of any of the little bits around that?
Yeah, he definitely makes that part easier, and he even helps with he's on the bench with the iPad, and he's been traveling with the team. So I think the guys appreciate that he's kind of on the road and in the trenches, and doing all that stuff rather than if you're if you're on the bench strictly for home games, that's great. But if we're going to Dundee on a Sunday afternoon and you're there with them, and I think it just shows his commitment, and it's really special to see. I don't think many teams have that.
Yeah, and I think going off that as well, one thing Chris did mention, obviously, in last week's podcast is sort of a big part of his role is helping sort of new players when they come in, sort of initiate into new life. But I wanted to ask you, Cam, as well. So, being the captain, obviously, like you said, you've been here for 6 years. I wanted to ask, talk us through how you'd introduce any new players into life in Manchester.
Yeah, I think, like team bonding away from the rink is obviously huge, and just so guys feel settled. There's a lot that this city has a lot to offer. There's a lot, in town, Altrincham, all everywhere, all the different spots. I think, there's just so much to do and see, and guys want to know, where to go, what to do, where to eat, like where to go watch a movie, whatever it may be. And that's a huge thing. And now this time of year, the guys will get to experience the Christmas markets that haven't done that. And, that's just another reason that it's a great place to play. Is there's a lot to offer, and as important as your job and work and success is on the ice, it's important to have a good balance off the ice as well. So, yeah, any of the new guys, they fit it in well, and just kind of try and steer them in the right direction to all the good spots.
Definitely, definitely. Have you got any spots you recommend?
Well, Christmas markets for one, in town. Definitely love the Northern Quarter. There's just so much to do and see. I think it's no secret. Albert Schloss is a great spot to go. Oast House, any good dinners, the Ivy, 20 stories. It's just nice, especially like when you're getting people coming to visit. Like, my mom's coming here next month, and she wants to see and do everything she can. So she likes to go and see, and she's just blown away by the city itself. So it's nice when you have family in town to be able to show, experience that you're having, and to be able to share that with family or friends, whatever it may be. It's pretty cool to just kind of help those guys out, and just kind of, here's some good ideas, do what you want, and away you go.
It's nice to know a little bit more about the fun side of being a leader in the team, getting to show them all the recommended spots. I want to ask as one of the final question. We spoke earlier in the show about the loss to Belfast, and we're currently in the build up to the next couple of games. We're going to talk about that in just a second and preview those. But just from you, real quick, while we have you, what happens from like a player's perspective and now a coaching's perspective, as you'll know that too? What happens during a week to prepare to bounce back from a tough loss?
Yeah, I think, there's so many cliches associated with hockey, right? And one of them is, 24-hour rule is what we like to say. And, like 24 hours after a loss or after a win, you just put it aside, you move on. But I think anytime you have a weekend where you don't get the win or a win, you put that behind, you move on. But that week, typically a little more intense, maybe a little more, just tense in general for guys. It's you come to work, winning is, the funnest thing about, is the best part about the game of hockey. So I think you just kind of you dig in, you try and get better, you push your teammates, and it's probably, it's a little more tense during the week when that happens. We've had two skates this week, they've both been very intense. A lot of battling, just kind of pushing each other. And the systems side of things is certainly important and a key element to the game, but to battle, compete, pushing each other, and just kind of getting more grit in your game is massive as well. So I think we're just pushing that. It's not fun when you lose, especially when you lose 7-2 at home. It sucks. It's not acceptable. It's not fun. Puts a lot more pressure on us as players to, figure out what's going on, change it. So it's what we're doing right now, and that's what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks, is just getting better, getting more wins, getting more points, and climbing the ladder.
We look forward to seeing that, and that all starts this Friday as we host the Dundee Stars. We'll break that down in just a second and what you can expect from that for those of you listening at home. But for now, Cam, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to have you back at some point.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on.
This is the Storm
I just
Report.
want to take the time to say another thank you to our captain, Cam Critchlow. It was a very fun chat that we had with you. And it's always good to get different people, different insight from around the club on this podcast. And I hope that we can give to you guys as fans a different and a fun experience every time. I would encourage you guys to let us know who you'd want to see next, as you never know, you might just get your wish. But for now, we have a little bit more things to talk about because we're not done yet. We have 2 games coming up this weekend as of the release of this podcast. We have the Dundee Stars is our next fixture. That's going to be at home. If you haven't got your tickets already, feel free to pause the podcast and go give them a look. Then we'll be away to the Guildford Flames. There'll be some very interesting matchups going on across this weekend. But to start with, Aidan, talk me through this Dundee game. We're yet to play them at home, but we have played them so far. So we know a little bit about what to expect from them.
Yeah, and plenty of goals in that game. And to be honest, that's what I've come to expect from games against the Dundee Stars, one of the clubs that I've got a soft spot for in the Elite League. They're a nice club, lots of good people, nice supporters, nice rink. We often have entertaining games. There's not often a lot of needle as well between the two clubs, unlike certain Guildford Flames I could mention. They got a lovely guy called Kit Kat, the kit manager who works for him, is one of the best characters in the whole Elite League. I'm sure anybody who's met him can attest to that. But yeah, they've not kept loads of players from last year. There's a handful of familiar names there. I do expect, especially with the same coach in place, that they're going to come in. They kind of like to play a bit run and gun, try to get goals, and you're often in for an entertaining game. And I hope that's the case come Friday.
You're right. It does tend to be a high-scoring affair, and I think that was the case when we played them away earlier in the league. Dean, can you tell us a little bit about that game?
Yeah, I mean, going back to obviously what Aiden said, when we played them on the 21st of September, it definitely was a game that wasn't short of goals. We took 2 points away on the road when we beat them 5-4 with goals from the likes of Alex Roberts, Grant Hubert, Craig Martin, Stephen Johnson, and Jake Derflinger. And this will be the 26th time Manchester Storm have faced Dundee Stars at the Storm Shelter since 2015. And Storm have been victorious in 20 of those games. So by that stat alone, gives us a bit more of a reason to be a bit more confident going into this game.
Well, it certainly gives me optimism. I think that's a stat that I will be looking to tell the players going into it. I'd say the context isn't important. We've played them 26 times here in this building, and we've beaten them 20 times. On that basis, I like our odds. Go out there and do it. I know that Mike is probably going to give them a much better team talk than that, but let's hope that it goes something in a similar direction on Friday. On Sunday, though, there's a nice little break on Saturday, but we do have Manchester Storm action on the Sunday as well. And it wasn't too long ago that we played the Guildford Flames. And I wonder, Max, whether blood will boil over or whether cooler heads will prevail in this one.
Well, it's going to come down to how the game's played, and if anybody's still got a little niggle that they want to settle, the referee's going to have to be on top of that. And going into that one, I'm sure that they're going to be prepped and ready to call a clean game all the way through, so it doesn't get too out of control or too close to contention, or too close to blows being thrown as well. So I'm hoping for more hockey than anything else in that game in the away one. I will be watching on the webcast. If you're unable to get down there, obviously tune in and watch the boys along away in Guildford. And I think these two teams, Storm and Guildford, are going to have a great battle all the way through, because getting more games against them now with the Challenge Cup fixtures and the change of the format this year. So I like seeing more and more of these challenging games against Guildford Flames.
I have to say, I agree. I think the Guildford games, there's a bit of sandpaper in there. It's something that we mentioned in the previous week's podcast. They're a team that get under your skin. They've got a lot of players that are very good at that. But we also carry some players of those qualities as well. Jake Derflinger and Lauren Ullett come into mind as players that can easily just get at you and make you tick and make you really upset on the ice and cause you to do some silly things. And I think when you put two teams that are very capable of upsetting you on the ice together, it is always fireworks. And we really saw the epitome of that last time when they came to play us a couple of weeks ago now. And I wonder if we're going to see any sort of repeat. I just hope for the officials' sake that'll be having to referee that game, I hope that they're able to play all three periods in succession and not have to call any short. I hope there isn't that much of a show going on, you could say. But that will do it for this podcast. There are 2 games to look forward to this weekend. Best of luck to the boys going and playing those games. And if you're able to see any of us while you're at the game when we play Dundee, feel free to say hello. We are very friendly in person, even though Aiden is very tall and very scary. We are all very, very nice people. Come and say hello. But for now...
Sorry, whoa. You can't drop Aiden's scary and then go, right, that's it, everybody, bye-bye. Who am I scaring, Matty? Do I scare you?
Well, mate, we'll move on swiftly.
Is it how someone so old could be so handsome? Is that what it is?
I'm gonna go with sure. I think that's the right answer here.
I'd like to weigh in at this point. No.
I hope you guys listening at home have had as much fun listening to this podcast as we have had making it. Thank you so much for giving us your time as always. And until next week, we've been the Storm Report Podcast. Thank you. See you later.
That was the Storm Report, brought to you by Storm TV. Tune in next week for more exclusive insights. Tickets on sale now at manchesterstorm.com.